From the very first moment Clara Reynolds walked into the Grand Davenport ballroom, she knew she was out of place. The chandeliers sparkled above her head, their light reflecting on the polished marble floor like a sea of stars, and everywhere she turned were faces she had only ever seen in glossy business magazines. Tall men with sharp suits and sharper smiles, women in glittering gowns who laughed with practiced grace, and young heirs and heiresses who floated about as though the entire world had been designed to orbit them. Clara, with her simple light blue dress and quiet demeanor, felt invisible, a shadow in a room full of blinding lights. She wasn't used to gatherings like this, and truthfully, she hadn't even wanted to attend. But her father, Richard Reynolds, the CEO of Reynolds Technologies, had insisted it would be good for her to be seen, to make connections, to prove to herself that she belonged. What neither of them knew was that before the night was over, Clara would not only be seen, she would be remembered, but for all the wrong reasons. The moment it happened was so small, so ordinary, and yet it cut deeper than she could have imagined. She had been making her way through the crowd, clutching a glass of sparkling water, when she accidentally brushed against Victoria Davenport, the eldest daughter of the powerful Davenport family. A drop of champagne spilled onto Victoria's shimmering diamond-studded gown, and before Clara could even open her mouth to apologize, a cruel laugh rang out. "Do you even know what this costs?" Victoria sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. "Oh wait, you wouldn't. Isn't your father's company the one barely hanging on these days?" Her words echoed through the hall, and within seconds the laughter of others joined in, each chuckle like a dagger piercing Clara's heart. Then Anthony Davenport himself, the patriarch of the family, stepped closer, his voice smooth yet laced with arrogance. "Don't be too hard on her, darling. Not everyone was born to rule. Some people are simply background characters in life's story." The room erupted again in laughter. Clara felt her cheeks burn, her eyes sting, and though she wanted nothing more than to disappear, she stood frozen in place, her dignity unraveling in front of hundreds of watching eyes. The car ride home was silent at first. Clara sat by the window, her reflection blurred by quiet tears, while her father drove with his hands gripping the wheel tightly. Finally, Richard spoke, his voice calm but steady with a kind of conviction that Clara had always admired. "They don't define you, Clara. They never will. But remember this, one day, they'll wish they had been kinder." She didn't answer, but his words lingered in her mind, seeds planted in soil that had just been scorched by humiliation. She didn't know it then, but that night of pain would ignite a fire inside her, a fire that would burn long after the Davenports' laughter had faded into silence. The Davenport family was everything the world imagined when it thought of billionaires. Their empire stretched across real estate, luxury hotels, and high-end fashion, valued at over $750 million. They flaunted their wealth without hesitation, crushed competitors without remorse, and carried themselves as if even gravity dared not pull them down. But behind the polished magazine covers and flashing cameras was arrogance so thick it suffocated anyone who crossed their path. Employees whispered of their ruthlessness, stories of careers destroyed overnight, small businesses bought out and discarded, promises broken as casually as they signed autographs. They believed themselves untouchable, and perhaps for decades, they truly were. But arrogance blinds, and while they mocked and trampled others, someone else was quietly preparing to rise. Clara had always lived in the shadow of her father's success, admired but never taken seriously, even within her own circles. She wasn't the outspoken type, nor did she thrive in grand social events. She preferred books, coding, long nights spent experimenting with software ideas, and afternoons volunteering at local shelters where wealth meant nothing and kindness meant everything. The night of humiliation did not break her, it transformed her. Every cruel laugh became fuel. Every mocking word became a reason to prove them wrong. And slowly, Clara began to shape an idea that had lived in her heart for years but had always felt too small to matter. With her father's quiet support, Clara developed a revolutionary concept, an advanced platform powered by artificial intelligence that could transform the luxury travel industry. She called it Horizon AI, a system that would personalize travel, accommodation, and lifestyle experiences with unmatched precision, offering a seamless journey from booking to living the dream. At first, investors ignored her, dismissing her as the CEO's shy daughter, but as prototypes turned into functioning systems and clients began to experience the magic of her vision, people started to take notice. Within a year, Horizon AI was the name on every industry leader's lips. When 3 of the world's largest luxury brands signed partnerships with her, the entire market tilted. Suddenly, the Davenport hotels, once the crown jewel of the Davenport empire, began to lose its most loyal and profitable clientele. Instead of adapting or acknowledging her brilliance, the Davenports laughed again. "This girl thinks she can destroy us. She's a nobody," Anthony barked during a board meeting, slamming his fist on the polished table as his executives sat in uneasy silence. But beneath his bravado, cracks were already forming. Revenues were dropping. Investors were getting nervous. Former employees, once silenced by fear, began to speak out, leaking documents and exposing years of shady business practices. What had once been a fortress of power was beginning to crumble. And when the lawsuits arrived, fueled by scandal, financial misconduct, and broken contracts, the fall became unstoppable. It all came crashing down one stormy Tuesday morning. News outlets around the globe reported the same shocking headlines: Davenport Empire in freefall. Within hours, their stocks plummeted, their assets were frozen, and their once mighty empire valued at $750 million collapsed like a house built on sand. The family that had mocked Clara as a background character was now forced to watch their life's work disintegrate before their eyes. When reporters turned their attention to Clara, they expected arrogance, revenge, maybe even gloating. But Clara stood before the cameras with quiet dignity, her voice calm and her eyes steady. "I never set out to destroy anyone," she said softly. "I only wanted to create something meaningful, something that could make life better for people. But sometimes, when you treat others cruelly, the cracks in your foundation begin long before the world notices." Her words struck like lightning. They spread across social media, not as business news but as a lesson in humanity. Millions called her the CEO who defeated hate with vision, the girl who proved that kindness was not weakness but strength. The Davenports faded into obscurity, their name a cautionary tale whispered in boardrooms. Meanwhile, Clara continued to build her company, but she never forgot the lesson she had lived through. Empires may rise and fall, fortunes may come and go, but character, the way you treat others when you have power, will always define you. She thought often of her father's words, the promise that had once felt impossible: one day, they'll wish they had been kinder. And now, standing in her new headquarters, surrounded by employees who were respected, valued, and inspired, Clara smiled to herself. Because kindness had done what arrogance never could, it had built a legacy that would last far beyond numbers on a balance sheet. Speech balloon: what would you have done if you were in Clara's place? Would you have fought back, or walked away? Share your thoughts in the comments below, I'd love to hear your perspective. Folded hands: if this story touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us bring more powerful and emotional stories to life. Sparkles, this is Be Kind Always, where every story reminds us that kindness is the strongest empire of all.